So for as long as any of us can remember, the whole conversation around UAPs has been locked down, buried in secrecy. But what if the key to all this isn't just about finding some smoking gun? What if it's about fighting a legal war for a right we didn't even know we had? Okay, let's get into one lawyer's incredible blueprint to force a completely new reality.
And really, this whole thing boils down to one huge question. Who gets to decide what we know? Is it some tiny secret group in the government and private industry? Or is it us, the public? That single question is the entire battleground we're about to walk through.
So, who's the guy stepping into this ring? Well, he is no rookie when it comes to taking on powerful institutions. His name is Daniel Sheehan. He's a constitutional lawyer, and he has literally spent his entire life taking on the government's most protected secrets.
And when you look at his career, man, you see a pattern. We're talking the Pentagon Papers, Watergate, Iran-Contra. For half a century, Sheehan has been using the Constitution as a crowbar to pry open the secrets of what he calls the national security state. And this history is so important because it's the exact same playbook he's running right now for UAP disclosure.
Okay, so this is where Sheehan's strategy gets really interesting. He completely reframes the UAP issue. He's arguing this isn't about little green men or flying saucers. It's about a fundamental, straight-up violation of the American public's constitutional rights. Basically, the core of his argument is this, that you as a citizen have a constitutional right to know about things that have been deliberately hidden from you. This just flips the whole script. It's not a polite request for information anymore. It's a legal demand for them to be held accountable. So how do you turn a big idea like that into a real weapon? Well, Sheehan and his allies pushed for a seriously powerful piece of legislation, the Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Disclosure Act, or the UAPDA. This was designed to be their legal battering ram to tear down that wall of secrecy. All right, let's get into the original strategy, because this bill, it wasn't just some polite suggestion. No, it was a targeted legal assault on the entire secrecy machine, and it was designed with some incredibly sharp teeth.
The original bill had three absolute game changers. First, eminent domain, which would let the government literally seize any UAP materials from private defense contractors. Second, an independent review board run by citizens to watch over the whole process. And third, something called a presumption of disclosure. That means everything gets released by default, unless they can prove a damn good reason not to.
Yeah, that eminent domain clause, that was the real kill shot. It was so intense because it wasn't just targeting the government. It was aimed right at the private corporations that are supposedly holding the physical evidence, completely sidestepping their lawyers and their NDAs. But you can't just come out with a plan this aggressive and not expect a fight. And oh boy, did they get one. The moment that bill crossed over from the Senate to the House, the powerful forces that Sheehan talks about, the national security state, they pushed back, and they pushed back hard. And what happened next was just a total legislative gutting. They took this thing apart, piece by piece. The final law that passed? That powerful eminent domain authority? Gone. The independent citizen review board? Ripped right out. And that powerful presumption of disclosure? Watered down so much it was almost meaningless. They pulled all the teeth. And that right there, that's why that October 2024 deadline that everybody was so excited about kind of lost its power. Without that independent board to actually enforce it, the deadline became more of a symbolic gesture than a real hard deadline. In fact, instead of transparency, the final bill ended up with a massive escape hatch, a loophole big enough to push this whole thing down the road for 25 years. So think about this. The final law basically lets the foxes guard the henhouse. It gives the very same agencies holding all the secrets the power to just say, grave threat to national security, and delay releasing anything for up to a quarter of a century. It lets the system police itself, which means, well, nothing really changes. So with the legal strategy kind of knocked back on its heels, you start to see the other half of Sheehan's plan. See, it's not just about forcing the truth out. It's about getting society ready for what happens next. He calls it the sociology of disclosure. And at the heart of that plan is this really big idea, avoiding something called ontological shock. It's a fancy term for the massive societal freakout and confusion that could happen if the reality of non-human intelligence was just dropped on us all at once without any preparation. So Sheehan lays out this 5-stage roadmap. It's a controlled burn, you know? It starts with whistleblowers planting seeds of doubt, making people question what they think they know. Then Congress steps in with hearings to make the topic legitimate. Step 3 is the big one. You create a public archive of real data that lets scientists and the public slowly get used to the idea. And it all leads to the final goal. Society integrates this new reality without total chaos. A new paradigm. And seeing this really helps you understand the different camps in this whole movement, right? You've got insiders like Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon who are working from within the system, framing this as a national security issue. But Sheehan's approach is completely different. His is an outside attack, a head-on legal fight based on our constitutional rights as citizens. So even though the bill got watered down, the fight that Sheehan started, it is far from over. In fact, all that happened is that the real nature of the conflict is now out in the open for everyone to see. When you strip everything else away, it all comes down to this one epic clash of two foundational ideas: the public's right to know versus the state's claim to secrecy. That right there is the heavyweight title fight that's going to define the future of this whole thing. And that leaves all of us with a pretty tough question to chew on. After seeing the kind of institutional power we're up against, is full disclosure actually inevitable? Or is it an impossible dream? The final chapter of that story? Well, it hasn't been written yet.